Congratulations, Utopians. So finally, after years of speculation, post Kawai Leonard leaving the Toronto Raptors after their championship magical season, the Toronto Raptors have finally moved off of Pascal Siakam. This is a guy who's spent his whole career there. I thought he could have used this opportunity to be a lifer. It's unfortunate, but he decides to leave. They were for certain not going to give him the Supermax, which is what he was playing for, and they had to get him out the locker room. He's now going to an environment where there's more players his age bracket, and with the intention of more of a win-now environment. He is familiar, and not only familiar, but friends with Tyrese Haliburton, the face of the NBA, and one of the faces of the NBA. Them being the in-season tournament runner-ups really allowed them to realize that they had to get another piece, and they did so with the help of Pascal Siakam in commission of his ability to tell teams in the offseason that he is not guaranteed to re-sign. That really limited. Sacramento Kings were trying to get him, doing everything they could. They did not want to part ways with the assets they needed, even though they had it, due to the fact they didn't have that guarantee. This now makes the Indiana Pacers in the discussion of one of the more late season teams on the eastern side to possibly make a run to make a finals appearance. They got one of the more faster front lines with Pascal's ability to rotate 1 through 5 and Miles Turner's shot rim protecting ability, and one of the more nimble pick and roll defenders in the league. This automatically makes Indiana a threat. They can be an extreme matchup problem for a team like Boston. Don't underestimate it. X's and O's, they can make it a 7-game series, and anything can happen in a 7-game series, especially when you're eerily old on that Boston Celtics roster. Drew Holiday, Al Horford, and Kristaps Porzingis are extremely long in the tooth, and Kristaps and Drew Holiday have a laundry list of injuries, a rich history of injuries in their careers. So when you pair that with the fact that Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown have had trouble closing out back-to-back years at the end of games in terms of game management the ball, this just further proves it, that this is not going to be guaranteed for the Boston Celtics. Furthermore, they got a body now to throw at Giannis, which was disturbingly obvious. They were too undersized to guard him, and they knew they had to do something after that record-breaking game for Giannis a couple weeks back where he wanted the ball. It was a big ruckus. They knew they needed some more muscle on that team, and they went out and did so. They first signed Jalen Johnson, not Jalen Johnson, the MMA fighter Johnson. That was cool just to have a veteran OG on the locker room. But then they go out and get Pascal Siakam for basketball purposes. They are serious, and they mean business. And this is going to make them extremely, extremely dangerous. I don't want to see them if I'm the Knicks. I don't want to see them if I'm Philadelphia. I got Philadelphia sinking even further now in the East in terms of threats in the league. I'll get to Toronto in a second. But with that being said, I'm very impressed mostly because Indiana did not have to come up off of Mathurin or Buddy Hield in this whole process, giving away 3 draft picks, and none of them appear to be lottery, because it seems like Houston, who are fighting this year, you got teams like OKC. It's not any draft picks that are going to actually move the needle in terms of any prospects that are considered elite. Even though I'm not a huge fan of this year's draft, it would have still been nice for Toronto to have something to show for in the top 10. This is uncharacteristic of Masai Ujiri to sit up here and not have to force the hand. Bruce Brown will probably be relocated. A team, and this is the segues into my next point. Because of the cap, obviously, the big name market teams now have to shave off rosters and are not able to actually be on the offensive. Not insinuating Toronto, but I'm talking teams like Dallas, teams like Golden State, who historically might have tried to make an aggressive late season pull for him, said, you know what, it's not worth it. Between the cap and where we are in the rebuild and the culture right now, we just can't afford it. It's too risky. A team like Sacramento, who may have been willing to part ways with Keegan Murray, it's just too risky in the offseason, and they already got 2 guys on a super damn near super max. With that being said, now that guys like Pascal and OG, the premium talent, is off the board, you're going to see lesser big names fall. I'm sure there'll be a surprise, maybe a Julius Randle, but in terms of marquee cornerstone franchise pieces, jumping ship to go somewhere else likely won't happen. What will happen now is the cost on a role player, i.e. a Alex Caruso type, a Quentin Grimes, for a contender or a team with contention and with ambitions to be a contender, are likely going to go extremely up. And some team will pay that price, especially if the player is locked in. Grimes will give them a guarantee. Alex Caruso has 2 more years left. These are the kind of players that are John Collins all of a sudden. Terry Rozier. Teams get desperate. In the East, something like Miami starts to feel like we got to do something. Now to Toronto, because I can go on for days about the implications. I wish Pascal could have stayed, though, in Toronto. And I really thought that if they stuck together this year, they could have been something similar to the We Believe Warriors. They didn't do so. He wanted the Supermax. That was the only way he wanted to stay around. The age bracket wasn't matching, even though I think RJ and Emmanuel quickly are ready to turn the corner. They just had a rough situation in New York. Who hasn't? I mean, we've seen the long story of players now, the long list of players this last couple years that have left New York and have made name for themselves, at least tried to resuscitate their careers to an extent. Evan Fournier will be another guy who's on a final year, $84 million contract, known to be a sharpshooter. We know sharpshooting is king in the league. And he'll probably end up somewhere and showing good for himself with all this Obi Toppin emergence, another Pacer, who I completely forgot is over there as well. This is just a team that's going to be very dangerous and to watch out for. But Toronto is going to have to rebuild now. And Ujiri not getting anything to show for in terms of concrete players is very shocking to me. This is one of the most fiercest GMs. He is known to swindle everybody he deals with in a positive way and in a professional manner. And so I'm very shocked that this was the outcome. I see nothing but the irrelevance, nothing but the Toronto Raptors walking off in the abyss of irrelevance now. Understand, too, that with Quickly and RJ and Scotty Barnes, the Toronto Raptors are in a position now where it's going to be key that they keep the fort under control and players don't start playing for stats, and you hope that these guys will play the ball the right way. At the end of the day, the Toronto Raptors were heading down this trajectory for a while. It's just crazy that they went from winning a championship on a random whim one year and have completely become irrelevant. But it was necessary, it was time. And I know that Masai Ujiri, if anyone, is like Sam Presti. He can find talent anywhere in the draft. So this is going to be a good thing for them. All right, Utopians. Hope this was informative. If you liked it, great. If not, I'll try to do better next time. All the best. Love and light, y'all. Cheers.